9 reasons why Dark Souls is a terrible game. Controls to the game in the very beginning take some time to get used to, but even after hours of gameplay, controls can still have their awkward moments with you jumping, attacking, or kicking when you don't want to. However, given enough time, you'll master the controllings. The camera is the same story. You have these moments where the camera completely shits on you and you lose targeting during a tense battle and it throws you off completely and you get punished for it. Really frustrating when this happens. There are a lot of moments where you have to battle the camera as much as the monsters in the game. And because the game is so punishing to new players, it's really hard to get accustomed to these awkward moments in tight spaces or in weird angles on an edge of a map. Understanding how the camera will work in key moments plays an important role in navigating the game. The collision in the game is unreal with the body blocks and the colliders. Like, that shit is ridiculous. The collision in this game is so frustrating. You have these moments where you'll kill an NPC and the collision collider will still be there as the corpse is falling down. Early in the game, you constantly feel like you're battling the mechanics of the game alongside with the enemy, with these awkward moments where attacks just slip through or don't connect. Number 2, a lack of in-game information and explanation. No weapon attack speed description or attack range. This really throws you off because as you're playing the game, you're understanding how important attack speed is and attack range. If you can't hit the enemy as fast as you can and block when you need to, it's detrimental. So you're essentially just learning the attack rhythm of your weapon and the attack rhythm of the enemy. So it's really annoying. No clear explanation on what some of these resistance mean. Strike, slash, and thrust. Yeah, these resistances in the game. They tell you the correlating resistance to that strike, right, to the attack, but you don't really know, is this a percentile base? Is this a flat base? It's its own formula. It doesn't really inform you on what these stats means. And it really, like, I don't know how to evaluate fucking 20 plus resistance, you know? Like, I don't know what this does. Like, all I know is that I'm getting some resistance, but how much resistance? No explanation on how equipment load can affect dodging speed or movement speed and tell you the threshold. In the game, they don't tell you the thresholds for the equipment load. You kind of have to figure that out on your own or figure that out online. The speed thresholds for the equipment load. Some weapons and armors have hidden effects on buffs that the game doesn't describe or explain. Yeah, like the gargoyle axe. The gargoyle axe has this hidden buff, doesn't tell you the description of it, what it does, the stats on it. You have to look it up online. The same thing with like the mask, right? It tells you in the little description that it does this or does that, but you really don't. You kind of have to dive deeper online to figure out what it actually does. Like, how much in stamina recovery does it give? Or how much does this mask give in equipment load? You have to figure that out yourself. It doesn't give it there in the description. And this is, we're playing a game like this that's so stat based and so kind of like nitpicky with the enemies. I kind of want to know this information. Like, this is important information. Constantly looking up information online, if the skeletons are killable, if the gargoyle item has hidden effects. So you're kind of constantly looking up like online information about why things are happening the way they're happening. The game doesn't tell you it itself. That's kind of frustrating. A lot of looking up on little things here and there, like, oh, does this have a hidden buff and what is it? Getting fucking cursed and trying to find a cure. So that's another thing. When you get fucking cursed, you get fucking health, you get nuked. Your health gets nerfed 50%. And as a new player, you have no idea what the fuck's going on. The game doesn't tell you anything. You reset at a bonfire and then you're like, why is my HP halved? I got fucking cursed? Okay, how do I reset it? And then the only time for you to reset it is you have to go to this merchant. So you look up online, right, how to cure curses, because you have no idea, the fucking in-game doesn't tell you. You have to look up online and you have to go buy it from a merchant. Sells it for 6K. I killed the other guy because he just annoyed me. He annoyed me, so I just killed him. And cost 6K. And at the time, at that level, in that location, during the first playthrough, it's fucking ridiculous. It's hell of expensive, man. Like, it's crazy expensive, bro. I got cursed twice in a row, back to back. I mean, it was fucking frustrating as hell. Like, wasted so much time. I to a point where I was just like, you know what, dude, fuck this, dude. I only got cursed as much because I was just exploring. You know, I was exploring the game, and yeah, dude, getting cursed, man. That shit was a terrible fucking experience. And from what I understand, in the past, like the very first fucking issue of the game, you could get cursed multiple times, up to 4 times. That shit's crazy, dude. Like, there needs to be a better way of curing curses or something, man, because that shit's ridiculous. Like, that shit is actually ridiculous. When the Firelink Shine went out, I had no idea why. I didn't even know about the lady under the fire. I didn't even know she even existed, man. In this game, there's so much shit you can skip and have no idea about. at all, man. Bosses, fucking NPCs. It's crazy. I didn't even know this person fucking existed, dude. And I just see like a soul, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Her little stage, her little cell. First time I saw it ever, there was a soul there. This little animation of a soul. I picked it up and it gave me all that shit. And I was like, okay, cool. And the thing is too with this game, how they have all the items sorted out, or you loot something, gives you like a bunch of random shit. And you're kind of like, well, I'll look at that later, but it doesn't really look strong. So I really don't care about it because I'm not a mage. So yeah, I just really don't care about it. But yeah, when that girl gets killed, right, by that guy, I didn't even know she existed. There was not a lot of direction with this game. This game has a very poor way of isolating the focus in the game. It does that very poorly. Oh yeah, the game doesn't even tell you what weapons can or cannot use resins. It's another thing. It's like I was having this, like the game doesn't tell you directly what weapons can and cannot use resins. And that's frustrating for me. You have to look that up online. There's no classification for a lot of these weapons. There is no in-game classification that tells you what a specific type of weapon this thing is. Like if it's a common, uncommon, rare, unique, figure that out online. Like if it has an enchantment that is not a common, right? But all this information you have to figure out online. So the game does this. That's the whole thing with the game. If you know, you know. That's the whole thing with the fucking game. And that's what's kind of frustrating and does really poor is kind of direct the player to figure out what they need to figure out in order to operate within the game. So yeah, not being able to use resins on certain weapons, like that's kind of frustrating. Like I have my main axe or my main sword, but it's like a unique weapon or something, and I can't use the resin to buff it. So like whole fucking game, I never even used any of the resins. I never used a resin impactfully, and I tried not to even use it early on too, because I never felt pressured to get over a hump. Like to get over something that was that difficult. There's hidden bonfires in critical locations. That's another thing. There's two bonfires off the bat. Had no idea that were there, and the hike was such a long hike. I looked up if there was a bonfire in this location that I missed, and I didn't want to lose my progression. And it turned out there were hidden bonfires. Like if you were normally to play this game by yourself without any use of the internet, it's just there to just as a fuck you by the devs. Like I'm gonna put the bonfire here, and if you know, you know. And for everybody that doesn't know, fuck them. Like there's some bonfires that like over a ledge you would never fucking look at because there's a giant throwing flame shit in your direction. Why would you ever look over this ledge? You kill him, yeah, and you backtrack, but why the fuck would you ever look over this ledge? So it's like trial and error. Whoever figures it out first kind of spreads it, and that's why it's common knowledge. You have to look it up online. If you know, you know. That's the whole thing with the game. The game works on this basis where if you know, you know. That's this whole fucking game. If you know, you know. If you don't, you're fucked. Once you get good at the game, you're always good at the game. And yeah, man, fuck these devs, dude. Straight up, fuck these devs. What else is another one? So having to put on a ring to jump down the staircase in New Londo Ruins for the Four Kings, man. The game doesn't tell you about this shit at all. It's the most dumbest shit in the world, where you're kind of doing all this shit. You're trying to find the Four Kings and kill them in the New Londo Ruins. And enter the fog to go down the staircase. And you, at the end of the staircase, you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Why is this even here? It looks like if I drop down, I'm gonna die. You throw a pebble down the fucking staircase. You hear the scream, and it means that you can die, right? So you go back all up the staircase and figure out, can I get the hell out of here? No, you can't get out of here. You're trapped. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't go up. I can't leave. I can only go down. So you jump down and you die, essentially. So if you don't have this ring on, you cannot access this boss. And this ring is a fucking across the map in the forest area being held by a fucking wolf. The game doesn't tell you about this shit. There's no direction. Like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, this game does this shit too many. This is poor. This is like, at what point do you go, nah, bro, you just gotta get good at the game, and bad fucking storytelling? What is the line of fucking bad game development and being good? Because this is another instance where if you know, you know. You have to look this shit up online. And fuck these devs, dude. Fuck these devs. Because it's like, I'm at this location where I'm supposed to go. There's nobody telling me to even fucking be here. They leave you down, right, to this location. But there's no one telling me I have to jump down a fucking staircase. For my knowledge, at least. And there's no one telling you it's being held by a fucking wolf in the goddamn back street of a goddamn forest. So, yeah, that's like, what the fuck, man? Fuck these devs. I looked that up online. It tells me you have to get this ring from a fucking forest. So I go down the forest and I kill the wolf, get the ring and come back. Yeah, man. That's another reason. Lack of in-game information and explanation. Okay. I put down having to put down the ring to jump down a staircase in New Londo Ruins. Things like this are really annoying and slows the game down because you are trying to progress and the game doesn't tell you how. After killing the Four Kings, no idea what to do next and where to go. So at this moment, I killed the ice dragon, the bed of chaos. I killed the bed of chaos, and then I killed the 4 kings. I went down to the cataclysms. I purged the whole fucking cataclysm, killed everything in there, Pentwheel, all that shit. I killed all of them. I even killed what's his name? Fucking Patches, man. I even killed Patches. When I met him and he was saying all that shit, I didn't buy that for one damn second. Of course he did that. Of course he tried to get your ass killed. And they little laugh. All the NPCs have these little weird laugh and shit. And I killed him. I even killed his ass. No mercy, man. I killed his ass. I kicked him off the ledge. I let him down the ledge, kicked him right off. Yeah, after I killed the 4 kings, no idea what to do. So it turned out at the bottom of the catacomb where you kill Pinwheel, there's this ladder that blends really well with the fucking background of the wall. I missed it. I didn't even know it was there. I didn't even know it existed there. I fucking missed it. Like this game does that a lot. There's a lot of hidden things in this game where essentially you miss. You go into circles, essentially trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. You go into circles, man. It's big, like, empty, lost feeling. Like, where the fuck am I going? Where's the direction? Where's the dialogue? Where's the congruency and all this bullshit? Yeah, I mean, after completing the game, yeah, I enjoyed the experience. The game has its aura and stuff, but the thing is that this is bullshit, man. Oh, another thing, poor job explaining spells and miracles. In this whole game, this whole playthrough, I did not use one spell or miracle. Not one. I tried to increase my faith and get like a slot, but I couldn't make it work. The game doesn't walk you through the process. It tells you need a talisman, you need this faith and that, but I couldn't get it to f***ing work, man. Apparently you need a attunement slot, and then once you have an attunement slot, you can sort your spells, but I didn't even have a high enough level. That's the issue. So you have to raise all these to level 10, I think, but I didn't. Never felt intrigued to use a spell or a miracle because there's too many different requirements for entry, and I didn't meet those requirements. And I was already really late in the game, and I wanted to get stronger. And I invested into like 1 point into faith, but I saw that I needed an attunement to even have a slot open, and I didn't. I was like, you know what, man, f*** this. I'm not gonna be using spells, man. So I'm done. The game does a very poor job explaining the spells and miracles and introducing them to a player. The DLC, what the fuck? Right? The DLC, like, this game does an extremely poor job at showing you what to do when you want to do it. And I don't know how any of these fucking people, dude, figured this shit out, man. To be honest with you, this is what I'm saying. Like, if you know, you know. Like, you have to look this shit up online. I'm not sure if it was there in the guide, the fucking gamer guide, or when you bought it, there was a description there in the packet or something, or if the information was presentable. But this is complete bullshit, man. So the thing is, I wanted to play the DLC after beating the game. What you're normally supposed to do, right? You beat the game and then you play the DLCs. So I beat the game and I would go into a new game plus. And I'm looking at how to play DLC. It turns out that I have to fucking play the whole game over. Kill Orstrain and Smog, the halfway point of the game. From there, you go to the forest, you kill the Hydra, right? Go all the way to the back on the left. And you quit the game, or you just have to reload the cell. You have to reload the cell of the map, come back to that edge of the map. A golem will be there, a golem. You kill him, and an NPC comes out of it. You talk to her if you want to help her out. You say yes. She doesn't tell you what to do. She doesn't tell you where to go. She doesn't tell you jack fucking shit on what you're supposed to be doing next. You go on your adventure, and then you go to the Duke Archives. There's another golem just sitting there in this awkward position inside the archives, kind of looking at something, right? And you have to kill him. You kill him, he drops a pendant. You get the pendant. You leave the archives. You go back to the Hydra location, go back to the cave, and at that cave location, there'll be this portal. You touch and interact with the portal. That's how you interact with the DLC. Yeah, it's complete fucking bullshit. No one figures this shit out, man, on their own. Essentially, if you know, you know. Game doesn't tell you about it. There's no direction. The game doesn't tell you jack shit. If you know, you know. And, yeah, man, complete bullshit. All these weird kind of items that you get for the covenants, coins, the sun badges, they're all weird, and they kind of tell you like these little small descriptions, but they don't really tell you that for the covenant. You have to interact with the covenant, and then covenant will tell you that they're going to sell. You want to sell this or give it to them, but they don't even really tell you the trade-off either. Like, why do I want to give this to you? So you have to look that up. You want to know what you want to get in return. Game really doesn't communicate to you the real purpose of these transactional items for the covenants, their valuations and shit. So the next point is backtracking. This is my first time playing this game the whole way through, okay? And the game does a very poor job at communicating direction to you. So you're constantly double backing for bullshit. You're constantly double backing. The game does a very poor job of communicating, so there's a lot of backtracking. You're playing this game, trying to figure out where you want to go, backtrack here, backtrack there. You're just trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. And if you know, you know, right? Like if you know, like another thing is accessing the painting. I want to play the whole game, right? And I didn't even know some of these places existed because I was watching this girl play. And the painting, you could go into the painting. I never knew that. Never knew you could actually interact with this painting. So I went there to go into the painting, but it turns out you need a peculiar doll to enter the painting. And the only way for you to get this doll is by doing this little hidden jump quest back at the start of the game and curling up as an egg for a bird to take you back to the asylum. So you have to go back to the tutorial area, pick up this peculiar doll, and then once you have this doll, you can interact with the painting. So the first time I went there with nothing. So I'm like, why can't I go into this painting? You need to go back to the asylum and pick up a fucking doll. So you go back to the asylum, you pick up a doll, and then you can access the paint. That whole painted area was a good map or whatever, but completely missable. If you didn't know, you didn't know. Completely missable. You can miss that completely. Repetitive gaming loop. Exploration, clear out monsters, loot items, find objective, go back to bonfire, spend souls, bum rush back to objective to fight boss, learn the mechanics of the boss, through dying, beat the boss, rinse and repeat. It's the whole game. There's really no way of overturning this loop because as a new player, you are just exploring. This is an information type based game, so you're just essentially looking for the information. The game doesn't teach you anything that you need to learn. You yourself have to look for the information through dying or find the information online. That's essentially it. You explore areas until you find your objective, until you find what you're supposed to be doing. Once you understand the jits of everything, once you understand the layout of everything, continuously die until you master the mechanics of the boss and you find your openings and you find what to do, and then you kill the boss and you can move forward. The loop of the gameplay really holds on to the first playthrough, really holds strong to the first playthrough. The game is difficult because of the lack of information, but becomes extremely repetitive once you understand what you're supposed to be doing. Alright, hitboxes and 30 FPS. I feel like because, I played the game on the original copy of the Prepare to Die edition, so the limitations of the 30 FPS, it's very sluggish. It slows down the pace of the game. It's hard to dodge things at certain times. You're really just trying to adapt to the frame rate. You have to get accustomed to it, but once you come accustomed to it, the frame rate really isn't that bad. But I would say that there's a lot of hitboxes in this game that are completely bullshit. Like, you'll see the animation of the sword go through the person and not come in contact and trigger the damage, or you yourself will get hit by some weird animation of an axe and hit you on the edge of the axe, and you'll end up falling to the ground and get hurt when the axe doesn't even come in contact with you. Or someone's tail will come around and barely miss you, but it will somehow contact and you take damage and you fall on your ass. It's complete bullshit. A lot of these hitboxes in this game, complete bullshit, and you just kind of have to learn the limitations of what you can and cannot do in the game, and learning the sequences of what the bosses do and what you can dodge or when to block. But once you understand that, you'll get over the hitbox thing. But there's a lot of hitboxes in this game that are complete bullshit. They'll nick you at the very tip of the hitbox, and visually doesn't look like it connects, but the game registers as connecting. Number 5, inventory management. You constantly have things in your inventory that you have no idea what they do. The badges, the coins, the ear. Had really no idea what these things do. Turns out that a lot of these weird items that you get are for covenants. Really weren't intriguing at all. Really disconnected from them. A lot of weird items in your inventory that you really have no idea what their use is for, so kind of throws you for a loop in the beginning. You have an oversupply of equipment to choose from that you don't want to throw away because it doesn't take up space in your inventory, because you have this super big inventory that you can hold a whole bunch of items. So you constantly have all this gear and all these weapons in your items that you're kind of shuffling through, and you figure out what you like and what you don't like. But the game kind of just throws these items at you, and there's no real disadvantage to hold all this stuff in your inventory because you don't have a carry weight system in the game. You have an equipment load system, but you don't have a carry weight system, so you can essentially hold like a whole bunch of items. You're just limited to what you can equip, but your inventory is like kind of infinite, right? Or you have a very big inventory. But it's just cluttered. Like, you have all these things cluttered in your inventory, and it's just very hard to navigate through, very slow to navigate through all your items. They could have done a little bit better job with that. The inventory system is kind of just cluttered with a bunch of bullshit, to be honest. A lot of oversupplying things. It does clear up when you have the bottomless box. Put everything that you're not going to use inside of the box. Yeah, I feel like the inventory management in the game is kind of bad. The whole UI is kind of bad. Not really good, to be honest with you. Slow. Constantly have all this shit in there. Point number 6, the game is too fucking dark. The lighting in the game is pretty bad. It's all off. Blight Town, it has this greenish tint to it that it just kind of makes it extremely hard to navigate through. And I wasn't a mage, so I couldn't use any of the light harmonies or some shit. The game doesn't give you a light source, really. It doesn't tell you a light source off the bat. You kind of have to figure out a light source on your own. The only light source that I came across was the sunlight maggot. You get the sunlight maggot very late in the game, but that does help a lot to actually traverse through the darkened maps like the Giant's Tomb and stuff like that. The game doesn't give you a steady light source in the very beginning, and I think the skull lantern too you can end up using as a light source as well. Didn't know anything about that either until later on reading up online. So the game doesn't really give you a good steady source of a light source in these darkened areas. However, your body does kind of illuminate around you in a very short distance, but the game is just too damn dark sometimes, to be honest with you. Yeah, Blighttown looks like shit. It's very hard to navigate through. Getting accustomed to the whole level is kind of a pain. Yeah, it's a bitch. Oh yeah, the contrast and brightness is so bad in some locations. I just decided to turn the brightness all the way up in the game because I literally couldn't see. I just couldn't navigate in some parts of these maps because it was just too damn dark. And the developers did this on purpose. I know they did. They wanted to make the game feel dark and grim, but it's just so bad. Like, the contrast is very bad, the brightness is very bad, and it makes it very unpleasant to play, to be honest. So I decided to crank up the brightness all the way up because I just had enough of it. I wanted to be immersed into the darkness and immersed into like the aura of the game by keeping the brightness to the level they wanted me to keep it at. I drew the line either in Blighttown or the Catacomb, where the contrast and the brightness was so bad, I just turned the brightness all the way up because I just couldn't deal with the darkness anymore because it was just so hard to see what was actually in front of me. And at this time I had no light source at all. Like, you're midway kind of through the game and you don't know anything about the sunlight maggot, you don't know about the lantern, and I think there's a spell that you can use as a light source, but I had no idea about that because the game doesn't tell you jack shit. Yeah, the contrast in the game, it looks like shit, man. The lava contrast is horrible in the lava map. In the demon ruins, the contrast on the lava, so damn terrible. Hurts your eyes. It's so hard to be looking at for a long period of time. It's so bad. Like, that contrast. I'm not playing the remastered version either. I'm playing the normal version, the original version of the game. And that contrast to that lava is so bad. It's so terrible. Staring at it for a long period of time actually hurts your eyes, man. That was not a good experience, man. That was a terrible experience. Alright, point number 7. Combat. Kind of a turn-based game. Once you understand that developers want you to give the enemy his first turn, the game becomes easier. It's essentially how you beat almost every character in the game. You just wait for them to attack, and then once they attack, you attack them when they recover. Stun lock animations are annoying. When you drink from the Estus flask, you go through a stun lock animation. When you shoot the crossbow, you go through a stun lock animation. When you shoot the bow, stun lock animation. When you land from jumping off a ledge, you go through a stun lock animation. You throw a dagger, stun lock animation. Or you jump from a ladder, you go through a stun lock animation. Or you need humanity, stun lock animation. You use Transcendent Curse, stun lock animation. You want a Homeward Bone, stun lock animation. You want to eat these green fucking leaves, stun lock animation. You want to eat some moss, stun lock animation. You want to use your resin, stun lock animation. Too many goddamn fucking stun lock animations. The vast majority part of the game is testing your understanding of your weapons, its damage, its attack speed, and its hit range. The game does a poor job of helping you understand weapon limitations without dying or using the weapons. Yeah, not knowing your attack speed and attack range. It's very annoying, and the only way you really can learn that is through using the weapon on your own and testing its limitations through attacking the enemy. Point number 8, backtracking. Playing the game for the first time and trying to figure out the landscape of the game, I found myself in locations that were a bit too hard or I couldn't progress because of it being locked. You start up the game and you don't know jack shit, and you end up exploring the catacombs. You don't know jack shit, you can't progress through it at all, and essentially you're wandering there lost and going in the wrong direction because you just don't know where to go. So you get lost in the catacombs, you leave that place, ring the bells, you try to find the bells, and then eventually you'll come back to the catacombs. There's just a lot of backtracking since you don't know anything. What ends up mostly happening with a lot of new players is that they end up going to the catacombs and they get fucking locked in there, or they get trapped in there and they just can't progress through anything. It's like a dead end. And once you go in, it's extremely hard to come out because you're a new player, right? You don't know jack shit. Another section is in Demon Ruins, where you progress to the Demon Ruins, find yourself at a golden door, and you have no idea where to go. So you work your way through the Demon Ruins and you find yourself in a position where you're in face of a door and you have to get your way out of there because the game lacks no direction. You find yourself trapped in these positions where you just can't progress and you're essentially just wasting a whole bunch of time. Yeah, man, the backtracking in this game is fucking terrible, and the devs, this is not good gameplay. Like, this is not good game development. There's no direction, and that's before you can even warp. You can't even warp because you're trying to figure out how the fuck you can get to these bells. Constantly having to backtrack locations to find objectives and direction in the game becomes a lot easier once you have the warp mechanic through the bonfire. But by that point, once you have the warp mechanic through the bonfire, you understand the layout of the map a little bit more and you can navigate it a little bit better. Yeah, the backtracking becomes a little bit more easier to deal with once you have the warp mechanic. Okay, the final and most important point in this whole game, number 9, once you know, you know. Once you know how the enemies work, their pathing, their exploits, and understanding that once you give the enemy their turn to throw their attack, the game becomes relatively easy and repetitive. Once you understand that most of these enemies, they outmatch you in attack speed because you're holding a huge sword or something. So most of the time you have to give them their turn to throw their attack and then you can capitalize on them. And that's the vast majority of the game. Unless you outmatch them in attack speed, there's really no point to throw the first attack. So that became extremely repetitive for me. Once you know, you know. Half the game is finding out where you have to go and how to get what you need to progress. You're lost most of the way through the game trying to find the correct way. A little bit more than half of the game is just finding out what you need to do and where you need to go and trying to piece all this shit together. It's so bad with its direction. Finding out what you need to do and finding out where you need to go is half the game. The game doesn't tell you most of this shit, and essentially a lot of it can be missed. And if you know, you know. Knowing where the bells are at, that's a critical thing. Where to go, when to go. Knowing how to access some of these bosses, knowing how to access the 4 kings. You have to kill the wolf first and then you can access the 4 kings. You know, just figuring out the whole layout of the whole game. Not knowing where you're supposed to go in Blight Town, but you know, at the edge of the map there's a location where you can access the boss and that's the correct way. In the poison, accessing the DLC. And once you understand the attack pattern of the boss, when to dodge, when to block, it becomes extremely easy. If you guys liked the video and enjoyed it, please subscribe or leave a comment. I'm still kind of new to trying to make videos, so if you liked the video, tell me. Or if you disliked it, tell me in the comments. I'm planning to do more videos like this in the future where I break games down. So if you liked the video, subscribe.